the easiest way, the simplest way is to extend your breakfast. Start breakfast an hour after waking or 2 hours after waking. This is probably the best example because when you wake up from sleeping, your body is still in a state of detoxification, purification. So just extend that until you have your first meal. As long as you can. Okay, if you can't go an hour, if you're starving when you wake up, go 30 minutes. If you can go more than an hour, if you can go more than 2 hours, do it. If you can completely skip breakfast and just wait until lunch to eat, this would be even more highly beneficial. But this is a good time to bring up, okay, this is actually a balancing act. Because if you go too long without food, trust me, I understand, you can wipe yourself out. Your energy can drop through the floor. It can affect your ability to think clearly or do your job or your work, your business. So it is possible to get too ambitious with morning fasting, and then by the time you get to lunch, you might overeat or you might eat junk foods. This could start a whole vicious cycle. So explore a balancing act, get to know your limits, get to know what works for you. Are you in a situation where it seems like you have to eat before you leave the house in the morning? I've been there. Maybe you would like to wait an hour or two, maybe you like to wait 2 hours, but you've got to leave the house and you're like, oh, I have to eat before I leave the house. So if that's the case, try to finagle your schedule a little bit to where you can do other things in the morning, like stretching, preparing things for the day, doing some things that you would normally do later in the day. So maybe wake up a tiny bit earlier, shift some of that stuff, and do that before you eat. So what you're trying to do is work up an appetite. This is like a good natural stressor on the body. Like when we stress the muscles to exercising, it creates strength and resiliency. So hunger does the same thing if you apply it. Okay, don't ever eat just to eat when you're not really hungry. That can actually cause early aging, and who wants that? So another thing you can do is eat dinner a bit earlier. Late night eating is one of the enemies of detoxification, regeneration. It's antithesis of intermittent fasting. If you eat late, some people I know, they're like, oh yeah, I gotta eat. It's 9-10 o'clock at night, and they're going to bed shortly thereafter. They're eating a meal or even a snack. You want to give honestly, I've heard 2 hours, that you want to give your body 2 hours to digest before bed. I would say that as a minimum. If you're going to go to bed at 10 or 11, try to eat no later than 6 or 7 o'clock. Earlier the better. You want to be digested by the time you hit the sack. And if you could go to bed feeling, even a tiny bit hungry, that would be great. You don't want to be hungry full out because that could stop you from falling asleep. The worst thing to do would be to get up and make a late night snack. That's bad on so many levels. You don't want to go to bed and be digesting when you're trying to fall asleep and rest. So many of the benefits of healing happen during sleep. So you want to be digested by the time you go to bed. You want to wake up the next morning feeling at least a little bit hungry. And then if you could take some extra time that following morning while your stomach's rumbling and gurgling, and delay your first meal of the day, you're going to get even more benefits. So you're extending this window between dinner and breakfast. This is where all the magic happens. Something else you can do would be to reduce the number of meals you're eating in a day, but increase the calories per meal. This is the antithesis of the grazing technique, where you're eating a lot of small meals with small portion sizes,